I'm excited to be your host today for this Solar Decathlon webinar intended to help those of you who are considering applying decide whether or not to take the leap. I think you should. Help those who are interested in applying but uncertain what challenge or division to choose to make a more informed decision, and to help those who already know what they're doing create the most successful application possible. Thanks for taking the time today to listen to us talk. We will have time for questions at the end, and I'll turn it over now to Lynn to provide a few details on the webinar hosting itself.
Hi everyone, I'm Lynn with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and I'd like to welcome you, as Joe said, today's webinar hosted by the U.S. Department of Energy Solar Decathlon. Before we begin, I'll quickly go over some of the webinar features. For audio, you have two options. You can either listen through your computer or telephone. If you choose to listen through your computer, please select the mic and speakers options in the audio pane. By doing so, we'll eliminate the possibility of feedback and echo. If you select the telephone option, you should already see a box on the right that will display the telephone number. Panelists, we ask that you please mute your audio device while you are not presenting. If you have technical difficulties with the webinar, you can contact the GoToWebinars help desk for assistance. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the questions pane to type in your question, and you can do so throughout the webinar today. If you are having difficulty viewing the materials, we are recording today's session, and it will be available on the Solar Decathlon website. And now for today's presentation. Our webinar today is Kickstart Your Solar Decathlon Competition. Our speakers today are Linda Silverman, Director of Solar Decathlon, Sam Raskin, Chief Architect at the DOE Building Technologies Office, Rachel Romero, Project Leader and Energy Engineer at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and Joe Simon, Senior Engineer and Architect at NREL. With that, I'd like to welcome Linda to start today's presentation.
Hi, this is Linda Silverman, Director of the Solar Decathlon. So for those of you who don't know, the Solar Decathlon is a collegiate competition. It's called a decathlon because there are 10 contests, and we challenge student teams to design and build highly efficient and innovative buildings powered by renewable energy. And you can see some views here of some of the decathlons that we've had through the various events. Next slide, please. So I thought I'd give you some history and context for those who are not familiar with Solar Decathlon. It is an award-winning competition that began in 2002 with a public event on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. And since 2005, we've held Solar Decathlons every 2 years in the United States. And we just had our 8th competition this past October in Denver. And Solar Decathlon is just a great way to engage students in developing their workforce development skills, but also to educate the public about energy efficiency, renewable energy, and innovative building design, and for the public to experience these engaging and inspiring students that designed and built these houses. We estimate there are about a little over 140 houses that have been built. Solar Decathlon has now become an international movement with Solar Decathlons in 5 additional regions, and you can see below where they are. I just want to point out on the top right is a picture from the first Solar Decathlon in 2002, and it shows the teams and organizers that were gathered in front of the Solar Village on the National Mall. And if you look in the background, you can see the Capitol. And below that is the first winner, the University of Colorado, who won the first competition. Next slide, please. Oh, and just another message. If you're interested in learning more about past events, international events or anything, just please go to our website, solardecathlon.gov. At the top, there's different tabs, history and international, and you can find a lot of information on past events, on what teams did. I'm sure Joe will talk more about that. Okay, so next slide, please. So as the largest DOE public event, Solar Decathlon really does have a big impact. As I mentioned, there have been 8 events in the United States and 6 past international events, and you can see where they were. But I have to say, I just got back from Solar Decathlon China, and it was an incredible event. It just ended actually last Friday. There are 4 additional international events coming up in 2018 and 2019. And please visit our website on the International tab if you want to learn more about that. We estimate that there are about 37,000 collegiate decathletes worldwide. We call those who have participated in the Solar Decathlon decathletes. And they are eligible to join our closed LinkedIn group called Solar Decathlon Alumni Association. So if you join, we would love for you to join that. It gets a lot of media and media impressions for a single event. As you can see here, we estimate about 2 billion plus media impressions for any event. There's been 2 million plus house visits. And depending on the event, we get anywhere from 25,000 to 1,000 visitors per event. So please follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And with that, I will pass it over to Sam Rashkin, our Chief Architect of the Buildings Technology Office at DOE and co-director of the Solar Decathlon. Sam?
Hey, thank you, Linda, and welcome everyone. I want to talk about the design challenge and make sure everyone gets it down that this was formerly the Race to Zero, but now it's a Solar Decathlon design challenge. And the basic history is we've been doing this annually since 2014. From the very beginning, the design challenge was configured to be a very easy competition to integrate within the existing curriculum at universities. It fits into a design course or other types of courses, and generally can be done in 1 or 2 semesters at most. The key focus for us with this competition is on critical skill development. First and foremost, we want to disseminate building science skills that are critical to whether buildings will actually work or fail. As we move to developing much higher performing, much more efficient buildings, they have much, much greater risk if building science is not included comprehensively in terms of their performance risk. So this is so fundamental to any building professional that's going to be relevant in the future. The other part is, again, working in teams, since that's such a fundamental practice in almost every work environment. The key thing thereafter is then to integrate all this good technical and collaborative process into really effective designs. Good designs cannot just be good building science. They have to be good designs, good engineering, good landscaping, and land development. All those things have to be done. And at the end of the day, we're looking for market-ready solutions that meet the expectations of the current market in terms of cost, aesthetics, constructability. It's really important to develop solutions that are ready for the market in this particular competition. It's a 2-day competition event at NREL. From the very beginning, we thought it was an amazing opportunity to have the competing students actually spend their time in an actual zero energy building and a campus that was designed with sustainability in mind. Just the experience being on that campus has been so worthwhile to all the students attending. The key focus will be the presentations to what we sometimes refer to as a Shark Tank, but is really the expert jurors we bring in from all over the country to provide the best feedback teams can get in how to improve and how to think about their work in the future. Also, not to be dismissed as the networking opportunities. So often in schools, we're siloed in individual programs, and this is such a unique opportunity to just see across not only the US, but globally, what other students are learning, what they're doing, what their experiences are. That ability to do that networking is one of the most important benefits of this competition. Third, we bring in always each year some amazing thought leaders to share the wisdom, to inspire students, and really to learn about the bigger picture, the importance of what they're doing being part of this competition. And lastly, the 2-day event brings in career connections, where we set up opportunities for a whole array of different industry players to showcase their companies, often feature specific job opportunities. Many, many exciting jobs have been attained by students who've come to the competition and made these kinds of connections. So moving to the next slide. The impact of this competition has very different from the Solar Decathlon in its history. It was never configured to be a public event. So we do have lots of students that have participated, and we have a lot of teams that have been finalists. But if you were to ask me what are the biggest impacts that are so significant with this competition, first and foremost, it's disseminating critical skills. Again, building science is fundamental to whether buildings will work or fail. We have to begin not only learning the skills, but applying the skills. And the fact that we're getting that done with so many students, thousands of students through this competition, is absolutely one of the most significant impacts. Second, this competition is being fully integrated into a growing and a continually growing number of university programs in the US and abroad. And by getting this integrated into curriculum, we're getting the skills more fundamental to the entire program students take when they go and get their professional degrees. And maybe the biggest impact for me of all is that the students who come, you can just see when you're there that their lives are changing, that they are getting an experience and an inspiration and a level of new understanding about how they can take their careers to the next level and how they can deliver buildings that will truly stand the test of time. So the impact of this competition is huge. Moving on to the next slide. This is a vision slide for us to show you. It shows all the basics in terms of where we're going and what we see as why we do this competition, both for the build and the design challenges. First and foremost, it's all these technical pieces. You're going to have a great enclosure with advanced thermal protection and the latest windows. You're going to have very efficient components inside the home, throughout the home. You're going to have smart technology and technology that is grid interactive. You're going to have solar systems in most cases, if not all cases, that provide resilience and additional power. You're going to have comprehensive indoor air quality, and you're going to bring in and integrate electric vehicle charging to kind of round off the picture and fully also integrate disaster resilience and disaster resistance in your design. So this is kind of where we're going. But those are the technical fundamentals of what we're doing. Most significantly, what we want our students to understand is that we're going to transform the American homeowner experience and in commercial building experiences too. These buildings are going to be so much more affordable. What we see in homes is that the 30-year energy savings often exceeds over $100,000. We're going to transform comfort, health experience, the durability and maintenance experience, the resilience experience, and the convenience living in homes in this country. So this is an amazing future, and it's a future we have to get to because of the environmental imperative, because of the business imperative, and because of the societal imperative for all the advantages that these kinds of homes deliver. And moving to my last slide, I'll talk about what's new this year. Well, obviously, we've taken two great events from DOE competitions, and we've combined them into an integrated single competition with shared common objectives. The other thing that's very significant is how much more cost-effective this will be. By combining the competitions, both for us and the students, there's a lot of cost savings that are being realized. We're going to increase the opportunities for engagement and collaboration by having students from both competitions added to the mix for even more sharing and more networking. Especially for the Solar Decathlon competition, the cost and logistics burden is going to be dramatically less for institutions and an increased opportunity for public engagement because there'll be a national showcase, there'll be a local showcase, and we're looking forward to working to have an industry showcase as well. So the reach of the competition is being dramatically increased with all this cost effectiveness and other improvements. So this is a very big year for us. Thank you for giving me the chance to share the design challenge portion of the competition, and now I'm going to hand it back to Joe.
Hi, Sam. Thanks for that. This is actually
You don't
Rachel.
sound like Joe.
This is Rachel Romero.
I'm sorry, Rachel.
No worries. I work at NREL and I'm the Design Challenge Manager. So that covered a highlight of the events in the past and the enormous impact that both programs have had. Student participants have gone on to every career you can imagine and have been changing the world every day. So we think you and your university should participate. The Solar Decathlon represents the best of the best in building design and innovative implementation of the latest technologies and strategies. Universities engage students with industry partners in meaningful ways. Students learn by doing. Innovations are developed and explored. Multidisciplinary teams create truly impressive results. Competing provides students with the opportunity to not only learn about building science, but also about financial analysis, teamwork, oral and visual presentation, and other skills key to ensuring the viability of building projects in the competition and beyond. So on the next slide, let's assume that you have decided to participate. Great, but what does your participation look like? For this Solar Decathlon, that is ultimately dependent on the challenge you choose. The design challenge is most similar to the Race to Zero of 2018, as Sam said, and the build challenge is most similar to the Solar Decathlon of 2017. In the design challenge, teams of students work over 1 to 2 semesters to design and present a complete building solution, culminating in April of 2019. In the build challenge, teams work between now and summer of 2020 to design and build a complete house. Once you've decided whether or not you want to actually build your design, a serious commitment for sure, then you'll decide on your division. Basically, you compete within your division. It is important to note that a single school can have multiple teams compete simultaneously, though each must have unique team members and designs. A school can have a team in every design challenge division, as shown here, as well as can build a house in one of the build challenge divisions. Ultimately, you'll be judged across 10 contests, regardless of what division or challenge you're in. So on the next slide, just like athletic decathlons, teams must perform well across 10 contests to be victorious. Teams are evaluated to determine how effectively they integrate energy efficiency into well-designed, high-performance buildings that push the envelope for consumers and industry. In the design challenge, a single jury for each division will review all the competing teams, whereas in the build challenge, 7 of these contests will be evaluated by juries and 3 will be scored based on house performance and functionality. What is interesting about this is teams can choose what is most important to them and their story and their market and choose their target and ideal design accordingly. So on the next slide, how do you choose? Ultimately, you should think about what you want to achieve as a school, as students, as faculty. In the design challenge, teams will spend 1 or 2 semesters or quarters, if that's your thing, this fall and the spring of 2019 semester to complete the design of a building. This can be done extracurricularly or as an integrated part of a class. Sometimes as an entire studio will work towards a particular division and then simply submit their best design. You could work on elementary schools or office buildings, multifamily or single family houses. Other times the class will be split into multiple teams to compete the design in a semester or 2. The total cost of participation is limited to your time, travel, and team application fee. And you can also participate annually, both in 2019 and then in 2020, which may work better for consistent coursework integration or for graduating students. National and international teams of all collegiate levels are welcome to apply. In the build challenge, teams are committing to actually build the house they design. This typically requires substantially more students, more university support and integration, and more financial resources. But the hands-on learning comes from taking a project from concept through completion and exhibiting it to hundreds of thousands of people. That cannot be matched. So a few more specifics about the design challenge on the next slide. In the design challenge, teams can choose one of 6 distinct divisions based on their interests and passions. What you choose should align with your passions and interests as a school or as a team. Are you working on commercial projects or looking to get jobs in commercial firms after graduation? Perhaps mixed-use multifamily, our elementary school, or office building are right for you. We are very excited to be introducing the office building in the 2019 Design Challenge as the new division offered, and look forward to the designs that you'll all be putting forward. Do you have some local builder partners of the school who have a design they would like optimized, or a new solution for zero energy ready housing? Then perhaps the single family or attached housing divisions are right for you. It really is up to your team. So on the next slide, it's almost the end of August. Wow, that came fast. I hope you enjoyed your summer and welcome back to school. So your applications will be due on November 6th, indicating your intended division at that time. All teams who complete their application will be accepted and are encouraged to begin work. Though note that many teams won't start until the spring semester. You'll have the option to submit a project introduction as part of your application, which the organizers will provide feedback on. Up to 48 finalist teams, 8 in each of the 6 divisions we discussed, are selected and invited to compete further with a final project report and presentation of their design at the Design Challenge Weekend, held annually in April at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory main campus in Golden, Colorado. On the next slide, so let's imagine that you've applied, indicated your division, submitted all your deliverables, and have come to NREL in April of 2019. Now what? On the Friday prior to the Design Challenge Weekend in April, we'll gather all the students for a kickoff. On Saturday, you'll present your designs to jurors who will choose the top team in each division and provide valuable feedback to all. On Sunday morning, 6 winners, 1 from each of the divisions, are awarded trophies. These 6 winning teams will then present to a grand jury who will choose the best amongst the best following an 8-minute overview presentation at the awards banquet. Ultimately, a single design challenge grand winner will be selected. For those of you who are interested in building what you design, I'll turn it over to Joe to talk through the build challenge.
Thanks, Rachel. So in the Build Challenge, we're excited in this event to introduce new opportunities for teams to be able to participate. In the Build Challenge, teams must design and construct fully functional houses. In that, though, teams will choose to complete one of 2 divisions, either the National Showcase or the local build. In the National Showcase, teams will ship their houses to, and we're very excited about this partnership, the Smithsonian Folklife Festival in June of 2020 for display and operation on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. In the local build, teams will showcase their built houses permanently in their communities and are invited to bring a smaller representative exhibit to the Smithsonian Folklife Festival. In the National Showcase division, teams are showing a single module complete dwelling unit. Their target markets could include urban infill, disaster response, rural solutions where there isn't sufficient experience to be able to build these technical, high-performing houses in the community, or potentially, and this is new for this year as well, multifamily development, where teams are presenting a single unit within a larger building. Ultimately, these modules will be transported to the Smithsonian Folklife Festival and deployed. There'll be a maximum dimension of 15 feet wide, 14 feet tall while in transportation mode, and 60 feet long, and ultimately they'll park on the gravel pathways of the National Mall for rapid assembly and display. They'll be standalone, and we think there'll be really innovative ways to show off the ideas, the construction, the solutions of the teams, while minimizing the transportation and logistics burden of assembling houses on a site that's away from your university. We've also listened to a lot of feedback from teams who have participated in the past and are excited to introduce the local build division. In this opportunity, teams are able to design and build a house in their own region that can be effectively exhibited and operated. Target markets could be single family, low income housing. It could be a townhouse where we just judge one of the units. It could potentially be a retrofit, which is again new for this round of the competition, or other types of target audiences. And the houses can be larger than they have been historically in the Solar Decathlon, going all the way up to 3,000 square feet. We do still want to make sure that all of the local build division teams, as well as the national showcase division teams, feel as though they're part of an entire overall competition. And so the local build division teams will bring an exhibit showing off their innovations, their ideas, their excitement, their designs to the national mall. So this could be a wall section, it could be a mechanical system prototype, it could be a scale model, other elements that they're able to present, and all teams will present to juries on that overall event. So as Rachel talked through the design challenge timeline, I would like to talk you briefly through the build challenge timeline. So in July of 2018, we're excited to have released the guide for this newly formatted Solar Decathlon, including the design challenge as well as the build challenge. Just like in the design challenge, applications will be due in November, and then we will down select from those applications for the build challenge to 12 competing teams in December of 2018, just as quickly as we can so that teams can begin work in earnest in the spring. Then over the course of the next 18 months, we'll be collecting a number of deliverables, making sure that teams are still moving forward with their designs, that they're compliant with the rules, that they're compliant with the building code, that we're able to address any concerns that those teams were having. So in February, we'll get some schematic design documentation. In March, we'll get some design development documentation. In April, teams will submit their presentation documents that they'll show at the Design Challenge weekend at NREL in April. So this will be an all-team meeting where we have the 48 Design Challenge teams here on campus, as well as the 12 Build Challenge teams here on campus, where everyone can learn from each other, present their ideas, and show off their solutions to a series of juries. At that April event, we will have an approval to proceed for teams to go to the next phase of their competition. In November, so now we've gone through the summer, we're into the fall, we expect teams to be completing their construction documentation, and then we'll be able to approve teams to actually start construction. In the spring of 2020, we expect teams to actually build their houses. And so in February, we'll get your as-built drawings documenting exactly what was built because we know things can change. In April, we'll get a project summary, and in May, we'll get your jury deliverables, so what we're presenting to the juries. And then we'll invite all teams, both the national showcase as well as the local build teams, to show off their houses in their own communities throughout the month of June. And then, through a unique partnership with the Smithsonian Folklife Festival, we'll be open to the public in the end of June and early July in Washington, D.C. to somewhere between 350 and 800,000 visitors. So we're really excited to be integrating into an existing event to optimize the impact and outreach that all of our teams are able to achieve. So as Rachel mentioned, all teams are scored in each of the 10 contests, and the team that has the most points win. In the design challenge, on a quicker turn, the jury evaluates teams across all of the criteria associated with the 10 contests and identifies who's first overall and provides feedback to all those teams. In the build challenge, because we have a bit more time, because the projects are a bit more developed through the actual construction, we will provide a score for each one of the 10 contests. So for 7 of those contests, there will be juries. And so we'll have an architecture jury, we'll have an engineering jury, a resilience jury, and things like that, as well as innovation and presentation jury contest results. But we'll also measure the performance of the houses. So it's not just good enough to create a good design, but it has to be functional and has to perform as well. So for 3 of the contests, such as an operations or an energy performance, we'll measure the actual performance of the house that you build. Ultimately, all of these will roll up to a number of points, And the teams with the most points overall will be winning the build challenge. We will have a winner of each of the local build division as well as the national showcase division as part of the Solo Decathlon. So we're really excited about the opportunities for teams to show off their ideas in a really unique and high profile way. So why are we so excited? We continue to see the Solo Decathlon since its introduction in 2002 to innovate, to change, to adapt to the times. Whether it was introducing affordability in 2009 or taking the show on the road for 2013, 15, and 17, we want to continue to demonstrate the innovations and ideas of the university students that can significantly change the housing landscape in the United States. And so to maximize that impact, we wanted to think about how could we take the lessons learned from the past and try to implement the opportunities for teams to have a greater impact on the public who may not otherwise be considering these renewable energy, sustainable, or energy efficient technologies, while also integrating more with the building industry. And so with this model, we're excited to return to the National Mall with a large public event where people are coming to see a number of different topics and are able to be inspired by those students. So rather than us trying to bring out the public for a Solo Decathlon specific event, by being part of the Smithsonian Folklife Festival, we'll have new faces, new individuals, new ideas being able to be spread by your university and your student. We also are excited about the local build opportunity. So this may be a great way for you to partner with a local home builder, with Habitat for Humanity, with a fabrication lab, or a modular housing institute to really show what's possible in your own community. On the lower right, you can actually see a solution that was built by Parsons Stevens. It's a duplex Solo Decathlon house that was installed in Washington, D.C. and is lived in permanently today. And so one of the houses was judged as part of the Solo Decathlon, and then the other half of the duplex was built separate, but able to implement the ideas and impacts of Habitat for Humanity in D.C. And above that, you'll see a single module solution from Rice University. And so this is the scale and scope that we're looking at for our national showcase teams that will be cost effective to transport while still showing a full house with compliance with the International Residential Code, full kitchen, full bathroom, full living room, real wall sections, able to provide tours, but we're not trying to simulate an 1,000 square foot house on a transportable model. So we are able to give these opportunities to teams to participate in multiple different ways. So we're excited about this because it's a lower cost of commitment to collegiate institutions. We're continuing to engage the STEM emphasis through building science curriculum, through our partnership with the Design Challenge, and integrating in some of the opportunities from the Race to Zero in the past. There'll be more building science curriculum opportunities for all of our participating teams, and we're looking to reduce the logistics burdens overall so we can spend more time focusing on building science innovation, on renewable energy, on energy efficiency, and the ideas that you as students are coming up with. So with all that background as to what the event is, why we're hosting it, what the divisions and the challenges look like, we would like to tell you for a couple minutes about how to succeed. First, and I'll say this now, and I'll say it again, you should read the competition guide. Together as a team between the Department of Energy and NREL, we spent a lot of time making sure that we've explained exactly what the problem statement is. What are you trying to solve? What will the juries be looking at? What are the constraints? What are the requirements? What are the deliverables? Those teams that do best have read that document. So we don't want you missing points just because you weren't aware that something was required. Second, you should always plan for good team communications. Who's going to be doing what? Are you able to work across different divisions of your university? So is it the School of Architecture as well as engineering as well as business? How can you have good communications? How can you be productive through all of your activities as a team? Make sure you have support from your university, and this can range in scale and scope depending on whether you're in the Design Challenge or the Build Challenge or what your university looks like, but have the support of whether it's use of space, integration with coursework, financial commitments for assistantships or internships for your students, support for transportation, support for construction, connecting you with some of the alumni and being able to answer some of those questions. So work with your collegiate institution leadership early on to be able to get support for your participation in this event. Next, make sure you submit your deliverables on time. This seems easy, but it's critical. The organizers are able to review these documents, provide them to juries, and give you feedback so that we can make sure you're still moving in the right direction. And when you do this on time, you're going to get the most possible points, you're going to get the best possible responses, and learn the most along the way. Also, don't do this in a vacuum. Make sure you work with your local industry. So this could be a local home building administration. It could be the American Institute of Architects. It could be a solar installer or an installation company. There's many professionals in your own neighborhood who may be able to provide guidance, review your drawings, provide impacts or identify some ideas for improving your design, or provide materials, support with installation or construction or other activities. But ultimately, none of this will matter if you don't finish your project and create a compelling project that is interesting to some people. So think about, what's the story? Why are we designing this? Who is it intended for? How could this impact the market? How could this impact the construction environment in the United States through all these different areas? And make sure you explain that well. So even if you create a really good project, if no one knows what you created, you won't do that well in the event overall. And finally, just read the guide. There's lots of details. We talked through more of these details from this webinar in more depth and more complexity. So read that guide and you'll have a good idea of how to succeed in the competition. So if we've convinced you that you should participate, what's next? You should go through our application site. So if you go to solardecathlon.gov and go to the apply page, you'll be able to see a link to our application site. There, you'll be able to choose whether or not you are applying for the design challenge or the build challenge, provide your email address, and move on from there. Ultimately, it's important to recognize that if your university is going to have multiple teams apply, so this could be one team in the mixed-use multifamily division, one team in the urban single-family division, both in the local build challenge, as well as looking to build a house as part of the national showcase division, you would have to submit 3 different applications with 3 different primary contacts. And so that's just something to keep in mind to this application site, that your school is able to have multiple applications, but it will depend on 3 different applications submitted, or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. So you'll choose your design challenge or you'll choose your build challenge. Within that site, it'll change depending on which challenge you choose, and then you'll indicate the division in which you intend to compete. So in the local build or the national showcase, both within the build challenge. So do you plan to build a house permanently in your community, or do you plan to have a transportable module that you'd like to show off on the national mall? Within the design challenge, will you do suburban single family, urban single family, attached housing, mixed use multifamily, elementary school, or office building? And then you'll indicate your primary team contacts, submit a team roster, and then complete your registration. Registrations do require a $100 payment to complete that registration, and we do this for 2 folds. One is to make sure that we're getting applications that have some skin in the game, that have committed, have gotten some support from their university for that process, and 2, so that we have some resources to provide benefits to the participating teams in a way that may not otherwise be possible within the constraints of the Department of Energy funding opportunities. For those teams, you can then submit an additional document. So this is outside the application, but there'll be a link to a Dropbox. For the design challenge teams, you can have an optional project introduction. So this would be an introduction to your overall design, your team structure, some of the mechanical systems you may be considering, and we as organizers will provide feedback to you on that document so that you can make sure you're still working in the right direction in the coming months. For the build challenge teams, you'll need to submit a build challenge proposal, and we'll talk through that in a bit more detail. So the design challenge, teams must apply by November 6, 2018. You'll indicate your intended division, you'll pay that $100 application fee, and you'll submit that optional project introduction. Ultimately, all teams who successfully complete their application will be selected as participating teams in the design challenge and will be announced in December. And so this could be 80 teams, it could be 100 teams. We'll allow all teams who successfully apply to go through the design process, and we'll provide resources to make sure that you're successful when you do so. Ultimately, in the design challenge, we do still have some limitation on the total number of teams who can present as finalists at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Golden in April. And so that will be in February. We'll do a down select, as Rachel mentioned, to 8 finalist teams in each of the 6 divisions, or 48 in total, based on your February submission. In the build challenge, we'll do our down selection earlier because we know that teams need to really get started with committing financial resources, planning out the next 2 years worth of classes, finding industry partners, and moving forward on their design. And so as part of your application that's due by November 6th, you'll indicate your division, you'll pay your non-refundable $100 application fee, and you'll submit a build challenge proposal. We'll have an additional document that talks through those details, but they'll ultimately be asking for information on your team structure, what support you're going to receive from your university, and a conceptual design for what house you might be looking to create for this project. Ultimately, we'll select up to 6 teams in each division in December so that you can start work full speed in the spring. Those teams who are not selected to be part of the Build Challenge finalists, so if we get, say, 10 applications in the local build division, we'll provide an opportunity for those down-selected 4 teams who weren't accepted into the Build Challenge to continue their participation in the Solar Decathlon in their design challenge, encouraging them to design in the spring and present those solutions as they're selected in April. And so in the Build Challenge, we also reckon a big financial commitment, and that we want to make sure that teams are set up for success. And so as mentioned on the timeline slide, teams will be required to submit a variety of deliverables to show team progress. As part of that submission process, we'll also have a few stage gates where we will approve teams to proceed in 3 stages. And so this could be in April of 2019, we'll have the Design Challenge weekend, and we'll approve all teams to continue. So again, hoping that all teams are approved to continue. This isn't another down selection process, but making sure that as long as you've met the minimum requirements, then you're approved to continue. In November of 2019, after your 95% complete construction documentation submission, we'll approve teams to move on to actual construction. And then in summer of 2020, as you have finished your houses, we'll approve you to earn points and participate in the competition itself. All selected teams can proceed if minimum requirements are met. So once you're one of those 12 competing teams, we really hope that we'll still have 12 competing teams when we're on the National Mall in summer of 2020, but this provides a multiple stage process so that if a team has simply just fallen behind, hasn't found the resources, hasn't completed their design, we can identify that early and make sure we make the decision that's best for the team, best for our visitors, and best for the Department of Energy. And ultimately, Department of Energy also plans to provide prizes to the 12 participating teams in the Build Challenge to provide some financial support to those university teams. Overall, we mentioned this earlier, but industry partners are key to success in the Solar Decathlon overall. Whether this is the Design Challenge or the Build Challenge, partnering with industry to better understand how to create a successful design that will significantly improve or change the market is critical to your success. And so you as a team may be able to find partners as builders, as architects, with local city officials. You may be able to connect with contractors and developers. You may be able to talk to energy auditors, engineers, tradespeople, or find collegiate alumni who can provide feedback on your designs, who can help with some details, who can help with material or product selection, and go through all these areas. And so the way in which these industry partners may support you, it may be with site development. So maybe your local jurisdiction can say, hey, we would really like to see a duplex solution for this particular lot. Could you as a university help us with this? Or could a local construction firm help some of the build challenge teams to actually build their house? Are there professional organizations who can help you choose what building materials to use, help you understand the mechanical systems, help you to source or donate some lighting systems, and to understand financing as well? So really important through this entire process is that your designs can ultimately be built and can ultimately be afforded by the general public. So understanding financing and sales and what real estate might look like is important as well. So look at who those partners can be to make your team more successful. The more you can get outside of the classroom and engage with industry, the better your team will be overall. So overall, we just wanted to say, please join us for the Solar Decathlon. We are super excited about the design challenge. We're super excited about the build challenge and all the opportunities for 60 or more teams of students to integrate with each other, to learn from each other, to come up with solutions that could change everything from single-family housing to mixed-use multifamily, office buildings, elementary schools, and show the future of energy efficiency and renewable construction in the United States and abroad through this multidisciplinary integrated approach through these challenges that the Department of Energy is supporting. So we're really excited about these opportunities. We're happy to answer any questions you have and happy to go through and talk through what your next steps may be. So in terms of next steps, you should think about forming a team. It doesn't need to be final. You can always add more students next semester, next year, alter those different aspects, but identify as a university, do we want to have one team, or as we've had in the past, do teams want to participate in multiple teams across the design challenge in all 6 different divisions? That's possible. So think about forming a team, what that might look like, who the leader might be, and then work together to complete a team application. Make sure you do understand the associated documents that may need to be submitted, particularly with regard to the build challenge, so that you're evaluated successfully. And again, this is by November 6th, 2018, and then get to work. As soon as you complete your team application, we'll provide you with some resources and continue to provide additional information. And we're really looking forward to all these different aspects coming together. So our next webinars will be really focused on both the design challenge and the build challenge separately. So as you may imagine, there's much more detail to share in terms of what the divisions look like, what the specific requirements for construction are, what accessibility may be necessary for opening to the public, what timelines look like, what schedules look like. And so we'll talk through all those details with a design challenge specific webinar on September 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern, and on a build challenge specific webinar on September at 3 p.m. Eastern. And we hope that you'll register for those and participate. We do expect to release a recording of this webinar as well as the slides on the Solar Decathlon website. But at this point, we're happy to open it up for any questions that you may have and look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Linda, Sam, Rachel, and Joe. We are going to hold on this questions slides. Continue as you have been for the past hour, submit questions, but also if after today's webinar, feel free to ask any additional ones that come up. So let's start with some initial questions. So Joe, Rachel, can you clarify, is there a minimum or maximum number of team members required to participate in either the design or build challenge?
Sure. So I think we limit the minimum to be at least 3 students, and there is no maximum in terms of the total number of participating students. We recognize that there is some challenges as teams get very large from a communications point of view, but you may also see some students cycle in and cycle out depending on the semester, the timeline, or their availability. And so we'll see everything from a team of 3 up through a team of 100 in the Build Challenge. It really just depends on the university, their structure, and their interest.
Great, thanks, Joe. The next question is also Rachel, Joe, feel free to respond. But the question is, are two-year colleges eligible to participate in the design and the build challenges? Are there any limitations for them?
Two-year colleges are absolutely welcome to participate. We've had successful two-year colleges participate in the past in the design challenge, as well as some community colleges or other colleges partner with other institutions for the Build Challenge as well. And so any degree granting institution at a collegiate level is welcome to join as a participant.
Great, thank you. I think that, Linda, if you want to answer this next one, it relates to, you did talk to the international aspects of Solar Decathlon. Are international teams encouraged to participate in Solar Decathlon?
Yes, thanks for the question. A unique feature of Solar Decathlon is that we are open to universities from anywhere in the world. This is true for all other international Solar Decathlons too. So any team from anywhere in the world is welcome to provide an application and or partner with another university to present a team.
And this next question.
Hey, Lynn?
Yes, Sam, go ahead.
Can I just weigh in? Yeah, I just want to weigh in that the design challenge is also open to international teams, but because the event's held at a federal campus, National Renewable Energy Laboratory, there is a process that Rachel will go through during the webinar about how to register students from overseas to make sure they can get permission to come on the campus.
It's a really great detail. So as mentioned, the participation is open to everyone, but we do have some restrictions on access to the federal facilities, and so that'll be in the details of how to submit the proper paperwork to try to get approvals as much as possible through all of those different areas. Thanks, Sam.
Great, thank you. The next question, and any of our speakers can speak to this, but there was a lot of emphasis on the industry partners. So in the past, have industry partners provided more than just expertise? Can they also provide financial sponsorship?
This is Linda. I can answer this. Yeah, well, at least on the bill, well, I know in the design challenge, it's strongly encouraged to have an industry partner. On the build challenge, we also encourage industry sponsorship or industry involvement, but we don't require it. Many times teams do find industry sponsors because, you know, these are not inexpensive houses that they have to build. And so they can get help either through local architects helping them, or they can seek out alums to provide funding, or they can have industry sponsors, or they can look for industry groups to provide appliances or other interior furnishings. So it's strongly encouraged but not required.
Great, thank
if
you,
I
Linda.
If I could add just for the design challenge that industry sponsors or partners are just very highly encouraged. It's so important, since this competition on the design challenge side is focused on market-ready solutions, that you have the voice of your customer, whether it be a builder, an architect, a rater, or any other professional from industry, manufacturers, really weigh in with that vision to what's practical, what works. So they're really highly encouraged in the design challenge as well.
One other thing, this is Linda Silverman, one other thing I wanted to point out that wasn't really pointed out in the webinar is that we hope to have an industry showcase event, and we are talking with the National Association of Home Builders to present at their International Builder Show in February 2021. So that's just another detail that will come up more in the Solar Decathlon Build Challenge webinar on September 13th.
Great, thank you, Sam, and thank you, Linda. The next question, and Rachel and Joe, if you can clarify. Joe, you were talking about the $100 application fee. Can you, one of you please clarify if a collegiate institution chooses to participate in multiple divisions within challenges and that type of thing, is that $100 per division that they want to compete, or is it a one-time fee regardless of how many divisions they would like to participate and compete in?
So I'll answer that. This is Rachel. So teams form per division. So if you want to apply to a build challenge division, you need to pay a $100 fee there. If you want to apply to 3 of the individual design challenge divisions, so you apply to attached housing, elementary school, and office building, you'll have to pay $100 for each of those. And Joe, do you want to talk about, Joe will talk further on the webinar about selection process and Downselect and how that works.
Sure. So ultimately agreed with what Rachel is saying, that this $100 application fee is tied to each team, not each university. And so as you have multiple teams applying, it ties back to the benefits that we're able to provide to each one of the teams, whether it's the trophies or other benefits through the Design Challenge Weekend and other activities. And again, showing that commitment for the team overall. So we'll talk through that process in more detail, but it is tied to each application for each team.
Great. As a follow-on question to that, Rachel and Joe, are there any restrictions or requirements? Can students, members be on multiple teams?
Sure. So we do expect that the teams to be substantially different, so that we do have different designs and different teams for each submission. So we don't want to see the exact same house being submitted for both the urban single family and suburban single family in the design challenge, for example. But there can be some overlap of team members across, say, a design challenge team and ultimately a build challenge team. But we do expect different team leaders and a substantially different team for participating in the event.
Great, thank you. And I think this next one, if Linda and Sam, if you can respond to this one, it's a very fundamental question, and it's great to see. What are the recommendations that you have for first-time competitors to integrate the Solar Decathlon in their university or college's curriculum?
I guess I'll go first. With the design challenge, the integration should be fairly simple. My recommendation is that a design course and design professor maybe take a lead figuring out one of the projects for the semester to be pegged to the Solar Decathlon Design Challenge. Thereafter, I think the recommendations for integrating is to first see if there's adequate building science training provided by the school. If not, figure out a schedule right away when to take the 13-module training provided by the competition. It's an invaluable training course that many private sector professionals pay a lot of money for, that we provide for free to the students. So you do want to plan right away when to take that building science training. And also, there's a substantial amount of other webinars and training provided as part of the competition for free to the students. We provide training on design, on cost analysis, how to use software to model the energy performance. There's a whole array of topics that we cover, including how to present most effectively to the jury teams and make your best business case about your design solution. So there's so many good guidance webinars provided. They're scheduled throughout and promoted. Make sure that you're coordinated with your team and with your coursework to integrate taking those as part of your education at school. Also, I think that very significantly, I think the integration process should figure out how to integrate students from different disciplines. You don't want to just all be architects on a team, ideally. It's great to have engineers, maybe have even landscape planners, construction management students. We even find that some students in schools take the time to find out neighboring or sister schools to team up with. So sometimes it's not all teams from one individual college. But the big thing is to make sure that you're prepared for all the education that's being made available, to figure out if your school has adequate building science training, and if not, to integrate the training provided by the competition in your schoolwork, and to and then budget the time and resources you need to participate. That would be my quick answer.
Hi, this is Linda Silverman. What we found is teams that are very well coordinated, whether the team is being led by the architecture department or an engineering department or a different department. We had one team last time that was led by a chemistry professor in the chemistry department. Teams will, in the Build Challenge, teams will be, their applications will be judged by the level of integration with the curricula, but it's not completely required. In the past, we've had some teams that have been more student-led and some have been more faculty-led. We find the best mix is that where there is a strong faculty lead, strong university administration support. If there are multiple departments that are involved in a team, it is critical to, as early as possible, have a good coordination, good project management so that everybody is working together. The other thing I will recommend, which is really not specific to curricula, but as early as possible, if your team plans to provide some sponsorship, some funding, get it into your budgets as early as possible and by the multiple departments on campus, if that will be the case. That is critical to making a successful entry in the Solar Decathlon. We will have more information on this in the coming weeks. We hope to have a fact sheet that we can provide to those who are in particular new to the build competition, because there are lessons learned and best practices that helps team succeed.
Great, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Linda. As a follow-on, Linda, to what you spoke to, a question came in about the recommendation and for faculty and staff involvement. Is there a minimum maximum requirement or recommendation on their involvement for the student team?
I actually would turn that over to Joe because he will be able to provide more specific information on that.
Great. So in terms of participating in this event, we always like to see student-led solutions, student-led ideas, documentation, drawings, presentations, student-led construction, all these different aspects, but we simultaneously recognize that success depends on integration within the university world, and that faculty help make all of that possible. And so the number of faculty on the design challenge may be 1 to 4. On the build challenge, it may be 1 to 8, and then the role just sort of depends on what that engagement and the support might be. So there may be some faculty leadership provided for construction management, for mechanical systems, for architecture, for landscape architecture, for engineering and things like that. But it really just depends on the university's setup, structure, how much time is committed to classes, how much time is committed to teaching, how you're able to commit to working with the students to creating that design. But ultimately, both from a construction point of view, a design point of view, and from the presentations at the Design Challenge event at NREL and to juries at the Smithsonian Folklife Festival in summer of 2020, those presentations, those documentations should be done by the students. So we do want to see student-led teams with faculty enabling that success.
Great.
This is Linda. I should just add that it's often best practice to have a good relationship with your facilities management office too. to get access to facilities and also some extra expertise that they may have in the actual building process.
Great, thanks, Joe and Linda. The next question is for the two of you as well. There is a question about what is the size of the award and the prize for the Build Challenge?
Okay, so I will take that. So right now, we are aiming to provide $100,000 to teams that are part of the national showcase. That would be provided in different increments that are based on the deliverables. On the local Build Challenge, we are at this moment planning to provide about $5,000 to the local build teams. And the reason for the disparity in the amount of money is what we've heard from teams before is that they are most challenged by transportation costs and providing funding for that. And so we are really thinking that the funds that we provide can help defray the cost of transportation. And because the National Showcase teams will be transporting houses to Washington, D.C., and hopefully also to Orlando, Florida for the IBS in 2020, that they will need help, more help transporting houses, whereas the local teams will only be providing component systems, which are going to be less expensive. We're not requiring that the teams use the funds that are provided for transportation, but we're, in terms of responding and reacting to feedback we've gotten, that's how we're thinking. I think teams should hope that there is a possibility that we will come up with additional funding for teams based on congressional appropriations. And that's all I can say about that.
Great, thank you, Linda. We have just a couple more questions. And so, Joe, this one is for you. Can you please mention again the categories/divisions that are on the Build Challenge side?
Sure. So in the Build Challenge, there's the National Showcase division, and in this category, teams would build a single module transportable house that would ultimately be displayed and operated on the National Mall. So this would be up to 15 feet wide, 50 feet long, and teams are showing off maybe this studio, one bedroom, single complete dwelling unit solution that could be used for urban infill, accessory dwelling units, remote worker housing, all these different types of aspects to show off their ideas and fully tour their house to the 300,000+ visitors as part of the Folk Life Festival, ultimately installing that house in their own communities or in other areas once they complete the event. And so that's the National Showcase division. So really, for those universities that want to show off their idea, modular construction, have the highest visibility and engage in these different areas, we see a very transportable single module solution as the idea to do so. So these would likely be between 400 and 800 square feet for those National Showcase division modules. In the local build division, that would be where teams can build a house in their own community that would range between 600 and 3,000 square feet. And ultimately, they're competing with a complete dwelling unit, but it could be part of a duplex or a townhouse, or it could be a renovation as well. So more opportunities for those schools to integrate into their community, whether through building as part of something like Habitat for Humanity, as student housing, as low-income solutions, as urban infill, whatever may be interesting to those university teams, but building a house permanently in their own community and then exhibiting a component from that on the National Mall. And ultimately, all 12 teams will present to juries in DC, and the juries will score teams based on the completed house, what was actually built, how it functioned, and the overall design and its appropriateness to their target market.
Great, thanks, Joe. We have one more question, and then I'll let our speakers just do some short wrap-up comments. But I will hold on this upcoming webinar slide so that you'll have those dates, and we encourage you to join. The last question today is for Joe and Linda, and they're asking whether or not the students need to be part of the construction process, or can the construction be outsourced?
That is a great question, and something that has been a critical question of the Solar Decathlon historically as well. So we do like to see, and we do want to see, student-led teams, student-led involvement in the construction aspects, but we also recognize that there are many unique situations that may limit the role that students can play. So some universities may not want students doing electrical work. Other universities may not want students doing any of the framing. And that ultimately is going to be up to the university leadership and their decision-making aspect of the level of engagement and involvement of those students. But we do ultimately want this to be a student-led competition, a student-led team that's really integrated in these different areas. Where that line falls, so how much, what exact percentage of the construction can be done by professionals versus done by students, we don't have a specific requirement on that, other than to say that we do look for student-led teams that support the construction aspect throughout all those different areas. Linda, did you have anything else to add on the students' construction aspects?
Yeah, I'll just add that one of the areas we've been talking about is transforming the building industry through offsite manufacturing. So if teams decide that they want to either partner with or fund an offsite manufacturer to actually build their design, it has to be a student design. That is something that is very possible and actually encouraged, but students will always need to do some of the finishing and work on the interior appliances and finishings to make it a presentable and beautiful house. So there will always be a student element, but it will be up to the teams to determine how much they want their students to be involved in the actual building.
Great, thank you, Joe. Thanks, Linda. And as we wrap up, I will let Rachel and Joe have any comments before Sam and Linda, you can end the webinar. Rachel?
Just wanted to say we are so excited about this program coming together, and we're looking forward to your team applications and your project introductions and hearing your questions come in and you attending our next webinar. So thank you everyone for joining today.
Joe?
Thanks, Rachel. I'll echo that and say how excited we are with the opportunities that this model of Solar Decathlon provides for engagement at every level, whether it's over one semester or many semesters, with 3 students or 100. There's something for your university to really think differently about building science, about energy efficiency, about renewable energy, and to engage in multidisciplinary communications in a really effective way. I am super excited to see over 300 students here at NREL in April across both the local build, the national showcase, as well as all of the design challenge teams to integrate, share their ideas, and show off what all these universities are thinking. We're super excited. We hope you'll apply. Please reach out with any questions that you may have.
Great. Sam, Linda, would you, do you have any wrap-up comments?
This is Linda. I just urge whoever's interested in applying, we highly encourage you to. This is an amazing event, and I just want to echo what Rachel and Joe said, that this new model is very exciting for us. But I will say, I highly encourage teams to go, especially those that are interested in the Build Challenge, to go to solardecathlon.gov, look at history, look at prior competitions. You can see all the teams' designs and their final project plans. It's really helpful to see what others have done, especially those that have been successful, as a way to help you organize yourself.
And great. I'll chime in on a couple of points. First, I want to thank everyone for their patience with the little bit of extra time it's taken to get this all ready to launch for the new integrated competition. It's been an incredible challenge. We got great direction from management to do something very unusual here, but it was quite an undertaking. I know us at DOE are incredibly grateful to the NREL staff for an amazing job doing something that was so difficult, but that is why we are doing this later than we normally would do. So I thank you for your patience and a little bit of delay getting this out. And then obviously we're all excited about the competition, but what I don't think we can ever effectively convey is the actual experience unless you attend. And so for those of you that are new to this competition, unless you're at the design challenge or the build challenge, and particularly the showcases that are going to happen, you just can't communicate what that experience is. It's virtually, like I said, it's virtually life-changing for those that attend. So I hope you do seriously consider this competition. You get some incredible skills. You get an amazing chance to see so many other students across the country and internationally. You get great ideas about your careers. You learn from amazing experts. This is truly a total experience. So I hope you do take advantage. I thank you again for your patience, and we look forward to seeing you in the competition.
Great. With that, thank you to our speakers and thank you to all of our participants. We'll see you in September for the Design Challenge webinar and the Build Challenge webinar. Have a great week.